What you know, alibis. Welcome to yet another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Still Thursday, April 3rd. I'm on my fourth episode today. This is going to be the last. I'm going to combine the discrepancies into this because your girl is tired and I have so much to do. I'm going to go through Alex's police interview that he did. We're going to touch on some discrepancies, but to do all three of their police interview recaps, it would take a couple of more episodes. So we will touch on the discrepancies to give you guys a bit of an idea of what was different from Lori and Tylee's testimony. And I just want to say out of the gate, after the shooting, when Lori and Tylee were in that car together, I have no doubt that Tylee was being coached on what to say. In fact, during this episode, for the most part, I'm going to play Tylee's video from the police station so that you guys can see the confliction on her face. It breaks my heart every time I see it. That girl had it rough, especially that last year of her life. Her and JJ both, just total chaos. And it really blew up on this day and unfortunately didn't get better for them as time went on. One thing I forgot to add on the last episode is Charles did have that date with the woman the night before he was shot and killed. This is one of the witnesses Lori once kept out of her trial. She was the one that advised Charles he may want to tell Lori that he changed the beneficiary. So we'll see if she's going to be allowed to testify. Let's jump to that morning. July 11th, 2019, there are some text messages. At 6:06 a.m., Chad sends Lori a text. Lori texted Chad at 6:12, 7:01, and 7:33. None of these messages were retrieved by investigators. Before Charles leaves the hotel, he tells an employee he will be coming back to have breakfast with JJ before he took him to school. Around 7:10, Charles leaves the hotel. It's about a 20-minute drive, depending on traffic, to get to the house. But by 7:32, Charles is near the house. At 7:35, Charles texts Adam just before he goes inside the house. Al's here. Adam, at Lori's? Really? I wonder why he never called me back. They are planning something. Charles, absolutely. Adam, I was supposed to spend the night at his house last night. She probably blocked that. Charles, what you do is up to you. Sometime after this text, up until 7:49 a.m., Charles is shot and killed by Alex Cox. I fully believe it was an ambush. The minute he walked in, he was shot. I do not buy the story that there was this big fight or that Charles was being aggressive. I think it's all made up to support the self-defense theory. Once Charles goes into the house, Adam responds to him at 7:37. I'm going to put the pressure to have him come get me right now. See what he says. 7:49. Lori, JJ, and Tylee leave the house with Charles's cell phone and leave in his rental car. At the same time, Lori texts Melanice. 7:52. Alex calls Lori. 7:52 to 8:06, Lori and Melanice exchange 4 text messages. 7:54 a.m., Lori, JJ, and Tylee are seen on surveillance at the Burger King drive-thru. I have this video up on YouTube right now. That is JJ in the front seat and Tylee in the back seat. 8:06, Alex calls Lori, and the call lasted 56 seconds. Later on in his police interview, Alex will deny that he called Lori more than once. At 8:08, Lori arrives at a Walgreens, but that location doesn't open until 9 a.m. So at 8:17, we see Lori arrive at a second Walgreens. She texts her friend Audrey, but that text is deleted and not recovered. We haven't gone into the group very much in this series, but Audrey clearly knew a lot of things because she testified twice before the grand jury, before murder charges were handed down for JJ, Tylee, and Tammy Daybell. And also, she was with Lori in Independence, Missouri in October after Charles was shot. And she also got a 100 on the trust list Chad did for Lori, with 100 being the highest. At 8:19, Lori buys 2 pair of flip-flops and pays cash. One pair was kind of a yellow-green color, and the other was black and white with a striped pattern. And she was seen going into the store with sandals or flip flops on. I have a theory maybe she had some biological material on her flip flops. Otherwise, why would you go buy a brand new pair of flip flops that early in the morning? And at that rate, go to two different Walgreens to do so. But just my 2 cents. Between 8:24 and 8:32, Lori is near or at JJ's school, dropping him off. 8:28, Zulema texts Lori she's on her way to the temple and she will be in the celestial room. 8:32, Alex calls 911 and says the shooting happened a couple of minutes ago, but he's got a case of the diabetes because that ain't true. Charles lay dying or was dead for over 40 minutes before Alex called 911. And on that call, Alex is calm. There's no emotion. And he says he shot him in self-defense. When that call switches over to the medic asks Alex if he's willing to see if Charles is breathing. And Alex is like, sure. Alex tells dispatch he's not breathing, and they ask if he's willing to perform CPR. Alex says, I don't know how to do that. The medic said they would walk him through it, and Alex fakes doing CPR. The police come on and ask Alex, where is the gun? He tells them it's in his room, and it is a .45. He says Charles was shot at 8:20. 8:36, police and first responders arrive, and to further prove Alex did not do CPR, when medics begin CPR, blood oozes out of the wounds, and if Alex had been doing CPR, that wouldn't have happened. Also, Alex had no blood on him. At 8:43, Alex is questioned outside the home by Chandler PD. I'm going to link that whole video in the description. At 8:48, Lori and Tylee return to the residence. At 8:58, an officer starts talking to Lori and Tylee. In the meantime, Alex is seen on body cam rubbing that little boo-boo on the back of his head with a paper towel. I always thought just to keep it bleeding. Because I'll tell you this, Charles Vallow was a semi-pro baseball player, and that man was in excellent shape for his age. And had he made contact with Alex's head with a bat, I fully believe Alex would have met his maker that day, and we may not be here today. Lori is very lighthearted. She's smiling and kind of joking around. However, you see Tylee's body language as self-soothing. The one thing I noticed, her little cheeks are just so red. The cop mentions to Lori that she hasn't lived there long, and Lori's like, no, just 3 weeks. The cop is like, oh, geez. And Lori says, hi, neighbor, sorry. The cop asks Lori if she works, which she doesn't. It's weird because at this point, Lori looks at Tylee and says, what? The cop turns to Tylee and asks how old she is, and she says she's 16. He asks for her driver's license, and she says it's inside the house. He talks about her being a new driver and asks how she likes it. Tylee says she's almost 17 and mentions that she drove alone from Texas, so she's used to driving. Sadly, Tylee would not live to see that 17th birthday. Cop asks for Tylee's height and weight, mentions she's a blonde, and says, you have blue eyes, and that is not up for debate. This cop was being very gentle with Tylee, and it showed. On the body cam, you can see the ride to the police station with Alex. It was a normal conversation. They talk about random things like the heat in the summer. Alex mentions to the cop that he's wearing Kevlar, and they talk about how hot that is when you wear it. At the police station, Tylee, Lori, and Alex are interviewed separately and give different accounts of what actually happened. Alex said he couldn't remember what Lori and Charles were arguing about. And when talking to police, Alex used the phrase he feared for his life, which is a phrase that is taught in concealed weapons class. And just a random fact, the police officer offered Lori, a victim's advocate, 30 minutes into the interview. So let's get into Alex's interview. We'll touch on some of Lori's and we'll get into those discrepancies. And then we will finish up that day with what happened after. In the interview room, he said he stayed the night at Lori's and they were planning to do something, just a fun day, but they hadn't really decided. He was going to take Lori to the shooting range or take JJ to a water park, a movie, or something. And just to point out here, they all knew Charles was coming to get JJ for school and he wouldn't be there. Just to point out, by the way, this all started according to Lori, because when Charles went to put JJ in the car, he forgot his phone inside. When he came back inside to get his phone, Lori had it, and that's when all of this started. Alex says the morning Charles showed up, I don't know what started it. Alex was in his bedroom when the argument started. Charles was following Lori and yelling. Tylee came out with her bat. I had separated them for a minute. My sister walks around me to go to the living room. Charles was following Lori yelling, and Tylee told him to get back. Tylee took her bat and shoved him. Then he took the bat away from Tylee. I said, "What are you doing?" and got between them. Then he hit me and I just went down. When I got up, he was still yelling. So I went into the bedroom where I was staying. And then he said, "Put the bat down." And he came at me and was saying, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Put it down." And he wouldn't. And he came at me. So the investigator asked when the argument first started between Lori and Charles, where in the house were they? Alex said he doesn't know. He was in his bedroom. Detective Moffat said, "Then you heard the argument," and Alex said, "When they came right towards me." The investigator asked if they were coming down the hallway towards the bedroom, and Alex says yes. The investigator says, "Okay, you hear the argument, you step out. What's the first thing you see?" Charles chasing after Lori and yelling. The investigator asked, "Has Tylee already gotten the bat?" Alex says no. The investigator says Charles is coming towards Lori, and Alex jumps in and says, "I shoved him back." And I said, "What are you doing?" Because he's coming at her aggressively, and he's a big dude. He's not going to hurt my sister. The investigator, "So you shove him? And what happened right after that?" Alex, he comes up to me, and at this point, Alex has his hand right in front of his face. He doesn't look at me, but he continues to yell at Lori. Investigator, "So are you in the hallway?" Alex, "I'm right close to the doorway of that bedroom. I'm right close to the doorway of the bedroom I'm staying in." Then he backed up, and my sister came around behind me, and they ended up in the living room. While they were on their way to the living room, Tylee came out of her room, which is adjacent to where I'm staying, and she had her bat and was yelling at Charles. Actually, she was behind Charles at first, and then she cut around the front of him into the living room. Investigator, "So they went back into the living room?" Alex says yes. The investigator, "When you shoved him, did he fall to the ground?" Alex says he thinks so. The investigator, "So he falls to the ground and he gets back up, and you're blocking between him and Lori?" Alex says yes. Investigator, "And he's basically talking past you, still yelling at Lori?" What's he saying? Alex doesn't remember. Investigator, "So as you're standing there between them, what happened right after that? Is that when Tylee came out with her bat?" Alex, "No, he backed up. He yelled something and he backed up, and Lori went by me and around me in the hallway. So Charles backed up. I cleared the doorway. So then she came around and Charles was behind her, pursuing her aggressively. Tylee came out and yelled at him with the bat. According to what Alex said previously, he indicated Tylee was behind Charles at first. Tylee gets into the living room and Charles stops. Tylee goes around to the front of him and tells him to back off. The investigator asks Alex to draw a diagram of where things happened. One thing I've always wondered, why didn't they get Tylee and Lori to do this as well? But they didn't, as far as I know. Alex said Lori came into his room and he stopped Charles. The investigator, "Oh, so she came into your room?" "Yes." Investigator, "So she comes into your room and that's when you pushed him?" Alex says, "Yep." Investigator, "So you push him down and he gets back up?" Alex says, "Yep." And then he backs up, and then Lori goes around me, goes around him, and they're still going at it. And then Tylee comes out. She hears what's going on. The investigator asked if the bat is metal or plastic, and Alex said it was aluminum. Alex at this point is still working off of that diagram he drew, and he says she comes at him, meaning Tylee, and Alex kind of laughs and says she's tiny, so that's like her thing. She wants to help defend her mom. She comes at him, And the investigator interrupts and says they've already moved back towards the living room. And Alex says, right. Then Charles takes the bat away from Tylee, and I stepped towards Charles, and he turned around and cracked me. The investigator asks if that was the injury on Alex's head, and he says yes. Alex says, well, there was some shoving first, and I got spun around, and then he makes a sound, and then he says, popped. So I grab my gun and come back out. He's still yelling and threatening me. The investigator asks what happened when you came out with the gun. Alex said he told Charles to put the bat down, and Charles says, what are you going to do? Are you going to threaten me? Alex says, no, I'm just going to defend myself. And he pauses here, and there's actually a lot of pauses in this very sentence. Put that bat down. Charles, again, what are you going to do? Alex kind of lunges forward and says, Charles came at me. He had already hit me in the head. The investigator asked, what was Charles doing with the bat when he came at you? Alex said it was in his right hand like this, and he gestures that the bat was being held down low. Kind of makes no sense. If somebody's coming at you to hit you with the bat, you would have it up at the ready. Investigator says, so he's coming at you. How many times would you say you told him to put the bat down? Alex says once. Alex says Charles started advancing towards him, and the investigator asked, how many shots did you fire? Alex says, I don't know, a couple. The investigator, where's Tylee and your sister? The whole time he's asking the question, Alex is shaking his head no, and he says he didn't see them. The investigator, where's JJ during all this? Alex said he's already out in the car, I think. Investigator, as far as you think or understand, but you're not sure where they were. He's in the corner of the living room, and Alex says he and Charles were no longer in the room. The investigator says, so they're out of the room. It's just you and him, and he basically comes at you with a bat. Alex says, yes. You tell him to put it down? Yes. What did you tell him? Alex says, I didn't say anything. He just said a second ago he told Charles to put the bat down. He's coming at me, and I'm holding the gun. If you're going to attack somebody who has a gun, you got to be ready for the repercussions. The investigator, you said earlier he had the bat and asked, what are you going to do about it? Alex says, yeah. You'd already told him to put the bat down. Yeah. And then he just came at you? Yep. And you shot him? Yep. And you're thinking you shot a couple of times? Alex pauses and said there was more than one shot. He's asked what kind of gun it was. Alex says it's a .45 and it had standard ammunition. The investigator asks if it was full metal jacket, and Alex says yes. The investigator, so you fire a couple of times and you don't know where Lori and Tylee are. Alex says they're gone. What happened after that? Alex says, right after that, he scratches his ear. I went to the kitchen and rinsed my hands off. He touches the back of his head where that little boo-boo is. I had blood on the back of my head, and I went back into the room and put the gun down and grabbed my phone. Then I went back into the kitchen and called 911. The investigator, did you see your sister or Tylee again? No, not until they drove up, meaning after law enforcement and first responders were there. Did they come back inside? No, not until they drove up outside. The investigator wants to know the backstory of what's going on between Charles and Lori, and Alex fills him in. The investigator asked Alex if Lori knew what days Charles was coming into town, and Alex said, yeah, he was coming to pick up JJ. The investigator says, oh, you guys were expecting him to show up today? And Alex said, yeah, it wasn't a surprise. His behavior was a surprise. The investigator says, let me walk you through it from my understanding. You were in your room. Had you even gotten up or been out of your room? Alex said he had to brush his teeth. Investigator, so you're in the room, you hear, and I think Alex said I was on the phone and heard them coming down the hall real quick. He said he hadn't seen Charles that morning. You hear them arguing and you saw him at your doorway? Alex said at my doorway. Lori comes into your room and you're in your room? Yep. You get in the doorway and basically get between them. Yep. You push Charles back. He probably fell to the ground or did fall to the ground. Alex said he stumbled back. Earlier, Alex said he fell. The investigator, he gets back up. Talking past you, but yelling at Lori still? Yes. You don't remember what he was yelling about? No. At some point, Charles backs up. Lori comes out. They both go around you to get to the living room. Then Tylee comes out with the bat? Yes. So Tylee pokes him in the back. Alex corrects and says the chest. Do you know how many times? Alex says just once and gestures to the upper chest area. The investigator continues. He takes the bat away. You come towards him. What happened after that? He shoved me and spun me around and then cracked me in the back of the head. The investigator, did you fall to the ground? Alex said, no, my head just bounced. So you go back to your room. Yep. Get the gun. Yep. Come back to the living room. Yep. Now Tylee and Lori are gone. Yep. It's just me and Charles in the living room. Investigator, what's Charles doing? Alex says he's got the bat. Alex stumbles. I told him to put the bat down. He says, what are you going to do? Investigator, how are you holding the gun at that point? And Alex motions straight out at Charles with the arms extended. Alex says, and then he comes at me. Investigator, you fired a couple of shots? Yep. I'm pretty sure it was 2. Where were you aiming on his body? Alex says, just center. The investigator says, you're pretty sure just 2 shots center mass? Yep. Investigator says you fall to the ground and you don't see Lori or Tylee anymore? Correct. You go to the kitchen and grab a rag for your head? Alex corrects and says paper towels. You wash your hands and go back to your room and put the gun up and call 911. Alex says yes, and they walked me through how to do CPR. The investigator asks if there's anything else that he can remember, and Alex says that's all there is. At this point, the investigator said he's going to get a tech to come take photos of Alex, his head. You see Alex sitting there sipping water. He lays his head on the table. They come in, take a bunch of photos. They do a buccal swab for DNA. They come back in and thank him for his patience. Alex said, it's fun staring at nothing. The investigator says, so your sister just moved back? She had been to Houston? Yep. Lori said something about your older brother texting Charles. Do you know anything about that? Alex shakes his head no. When the argument came your way, you were on the phone? Alex said no. Investigator said, I thought you said you were on the phone and then they came your way. And then you're not sure where Lori and Tylee were. Where was your gun? Alex said the gun was in a case at the foot of his bed in an orange bag. Is there a reason you spent the night there last night? Alex says, no, not really. We were going to hang out there today. The investigator asked, did your sister ever express concerns for her safety with Charles coming there? Alex says, no, but watching her interact with him, I was. The investigator, when we talked about Tylee having the bat and Charles taking the bat, you said there was a struggle after that? Alex says, yep, I grabbed him from behind and we went to the ground. We separated, he hit me, and then I left. How come you grabbed him from behind? Alex says, because he was in front of me and he was going after Tylee with the bat. Charles just grabbed it from her. I jumped in. I don't know. I grabbed him from the back and we went to the ground. Alex said he did not see Charles swing the bat at him. We go to the ground. I get up. He hits me in the head, and I don't know if it was with the bat or not. I assume it was because he had it. The investigator, you go back to the room and you don't know where Lori and Tylee are? No. You go into the living room and he's there and he still has the bat and he's focused on me and lunged towards me. Alex says, I don't remember what he said, but when somebody comes aggressively at you and I'm watching his body language, Alex says, I'm trying to calm the situation, telling him to drop your bat. And he's like, F you, coming at me with the bat. And Alex stretches his arms out as if he's aiming. I told him to drop the bat. The investigator asked if Alex said anything after that, and Alex said he didn't have time. You go to the kitchen and wash your hands, go to your room. Where do you sit the gun? Alex says on the floor. You get your phone, you call 911. When did you realize Lori had gone, or did you call her? Alex said no. Did you do CPR on Charles? Alex said he tried. The investigator goes back to, I thought you said you were on the phone. Did you hear them arguing about his phone? Alex says no. All I heard was her say, don't touch me, and him coming right after her. The investigator, when you grabbed him around the shoulder, you went to the ground, but you didn't see him swing the bat. Alex says, I was getting up and my head bounced. It would have been really hard for Charles to hit him if he was on the ground grappling. I've seen people grapple if you've ever watched wrestling. How are you going to be swinging a bat while grappling with somebody? And if you make contact, I don't see how you could hit them hard enough to do anything. I totally believe Lori put that little tap on the back of Alex's head. Just my opinion. Alex said after that, he went straight to the room because this needed to calm down. I thought he would back down at that point, but he did not. They asked Alex if he needs medical attention, and Alex said he would like to get that cut cleaned up. The investigator says, we will get you, Lori, and Tylee back to the house, but you can't go in because they're still processing the scene. The investigator asked Alex how the injury on his arm happened. Alex said, I guess somewhere in the tussle. The investigator, were there any strikes thrown besides you getting hit in the head? Alex says, no, just me shoving him. They come get Alex and said they'll take him to where his sister is. They give him a bag and he leaves. So after they leave the police station, they are driven back home. Detective Moffat said on Dateline, as far as the ride in the police car with Lori, Alex, and Tylee, he called it straight up bizarre. He said it was the weirdest ride I've ever had with three strangers. He described Lori as happy-go-lucky, said she was smiling and nonchalant, and you would have thought we just recovered their stolen vehicle. At 2 p.m., investigators try to call Lori and Alex on their phones to ask if they could come back to the house, but they did not answer, so they left voicemails. A little while later, they do arrive back at the house while investigators were still there. Alex stays with investigators and Lori asks to leave with Tylee to pick JJ up from school. In an email exchange between investigators much later on December 5th, 2019, this is after everybody has been killed, it says statements made by Lori, Alex, and Tylee were later found to be inconsistent with evidence found in the investigation. At 4 o'clock, Lori calls her son Colby and tells him that Charles had a heart attack and died. She told him Charles had become frustrated and passed away. She indicated Tylee was there when he died, so it worried Colby that maybe Tylee witnessed Charles dying. At 7 o'clock that night, Colby goes over to the house. That was his first time being in that particular home, by the way, and Tylee met him at the door. She immediately hugged him and started crying. At 7:36 p.m., Chad Daybell calls the Valley of the Sun mortuary, inquiring about how much it would cost to cremate and ship the ashes. I'm going to let you hear this call right now. It was played at Chad Daybell's trial. Kind of awkward sitting in there with Chad at the defense table and all of us hearing him spew his lies, but here you go.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I'm assistant on the third call. How can I help you today?
We just had a death in the family, and we really don't want anything but a cremation and then to send the cremains to a family in Louisiana. Just a simple, nothing other than a cremation and sending him to the family for a service in Louisiana. So, is there any way to know a ballpark price on that?
Yes, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Let me transfer you over to the director who can assist you with the pricing. What is your name, please?
It is Chad Daybell.
How do you spell the last name, please?
D-A-B-A-L, Daybell.
How are you related to the person who passed?
I'm his nephew.
And then also, this is for the Valley of the Sun in Chandler, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, he lives there in Chandler. I live in Iowa, so I'm just trying to help out.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes, what is your uncle's name for reference, please?
He is John Daybell.
And last name?
Well, D-A-B-A-L. The same. John.
Do you have a middle name?
Myron.
M-Y-R-O-N?
Yeah.
And Chad, what is your phone number in case we get disconnected?
Yeah. This number, 515. I don't actually know my own number.
at nursing home, hospital, or residence?
He passed away in a hospital. I don't know the details.
It's,
Sorry.
yeah, it's just for to know, because sometimes it's different if it's a residential or hospital or a nursing home.
I'm thinking they're sending him to the medical examiner. I'm not sure. I should have had more information before I called. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's okay. And what cremation? What shipping? To which city?
New Orleans. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, last moment, please, Chad, stay on the line. Let me
Okay.
transfer you over to the director who can assist you with that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Chad.
Yeah.
Thank you for holding. I do have the director, Carissa, on the line to further assist you.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Carissa. I'm a funeral director with Valley System Mortuary Cemetery. I understand that your uncle passed away.
Yes. And I'm just starting the process for the family. He didn't have many relatives. I'm his nephew. I live in Iowa. But what they
Sorry to
want
hear that.
to do is, yeah, sad to see him go. Yeah, I think he's going to the medical examiner. I don't know all the details, but what the family basically wants is just to have him cremated there in Chandler and then have his cremated shipped to New Orleans, and we'll deal with the service later. So just trying to get a ballpark price.
Okay. So for a cremation, we are able to do our cremation for $1,699. Now, what that's going to include is the transportation into our care, the transportation to and from our crematory, our basic professional fees, as well as our crematory fee. Now, there's going to be a couple other charges there for you.
Okay.
So we are going to have death certificates, which are 20 away fees with a processing fee, $15 permit fee, and then we're able to do that transfer through the mail for you, and that's $150 fee for you.
Okay. Like UPS or something, I guess.
Okay.
So close to about 2,000 probably. Kind of a ballpark, yeah.
Close to that.
Okay. Well, that helps me a lot. I'm going to call one or two others, but I'll get back to you if we come that direction. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you need anything else, give me a call.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Zulema testified at Lori's trial that the number 711 meant something to Lori. She mentioned the number a lot and said it had a spiritual connection. When the murder of Charles happened on July 11th, Zulema testified that Lori said it had been orchestrated by God. I'm not going to get too far in the aftermath of Charles's murder. That will come out at trial. But one thing I do want to mention the next day, and this goes on for quite a while, over a week or so, Lori sends a text to Charles's adult sons to tell them their dad was dead. She doesn't call, nothing. She said they were waiting on the medical examiner report. And it wasn't until Charles's ex-wife, Cheryl, looked it up online and found out that Charles was shot and killed by Alex. The same for Adam and his son, Zach. After not hearing from Charles, Adam assumed Charles and Lori maybe got back together like they did briefly in April, but a Google search showed them the same thing, that Alex had shot and killed Charles. Another thing I do want to mention is the next day, Zulema came over to the house and Alex opened the door and gave her a hug. She asked Alex how it made him feel to shoot Charles, and he said it was okay because it was a zombie that he killed. There's some texts about Iplos being gone. The autopsy is performed. Then you have Kay and Larry going to Arizona to meet with investigators. Another thing that I wanted to touch on the day after, Melanice texted Lori. Adam just called Brandon and told him Al murdered Charles. He put it on speakerphone for me to hear. Can you talk, please? I think Brandon found out earlier. He seemed in shock a few hours ago. And then Adam and Brandon tried to use this situation to their advantage. Then Brandon said, do you still believe everything you believe? Lori tells Melanice to call her. Another text message at 5:19 from Melanice to Lori. Does Tylee have a phone or a way to contact Brandon or Adam? Lori responds, nope, I still have it. Tylee's friend told investigators after Charles's murder, Tylee stopped responding to text messages and she disappeared for a couple of days, which was unlike her. She had another friend who came to check on her. The friend said Lori was her normal, bubbly self, but Tylee was shaken up over Charles's death. And she said even though they didn't get along, he was still a father figure to her. So let's take a look at these discrepancies before we finish all this up. For Alex staying at Lori's house, Alex said, we're going to do something fun. Lori, I asked him to stay. I was worried Charles may come over and cause trouble. The investigator, remember, asked Alex, did your sister ever express concerns for her safety with Charles coming there? No. As far as Alex pushing Charles, Alex said, Lori came in my room. I pushed Charles down. Investigator, he gets back up? Yes. Did he get back up? I think so. And another time, you pushed Charles back. He probably fell to the ground, or did he fall to the ground? Alex said he stumbled back. On getting hit with the bat, Lori said they were on the ground grappling and Charles was hitting him and she motions up and down like you're chopping something. Alex, Charles shoved Tylee, took the bat away, then he just hit me and I went down. Another time there was shoving first. I got spun around and he popped me. Another time I grabbed him from behind and we went to the ground. He hit me. I went to get my gun. Another time, Alex says I grabbed him from the back and we went to the ground. Alex did not see him swinging the bat. Alex says we go to the ground. I get up. He hits me in the head. I don't know if it was with the bat or not. I assume it was because he had it. He also said when he was getting up, his head bounced. Moving on to the baseball bat. Tylee. I didn't do anything with the baseball bat. I just kind of held it there and he was getting really close to my mom. So I kind of stuck it out between them. They were both yelling and he was like, if you hit me with that baseball bat, you're going to go to jail. So I just stood there with the baseball bat. I just kind of stuck the baseball bat out there and he just grabbed it and tried to take it. So I held on to the end and I fell. He just kind of took it in his hands like he was going to do something with it. He was walking towards my mom and I didn't want him to do anything, so I just stuck out the bat. My mom was right beside me. It's not like I put the bat between them. I just stuck it out to be like, keep your distance. Later, I kind of stuck it out. This is when he said, if you hit me with that bat, you're going to jail. And I didn't say anything because I'm like, okay, I'm holding the bat. He took it. I kind of lunged forward and I lost my footing. And my mom was like, just let go. And so I kind of slipped and fell on my side. Lori about the bat. She doesn't know if Tylee tried to hit Charles or not, but Charles grabbed the bat and tried to hit her, meaning Lori, with it. Alex about the bat. Tylee came out with her bat. My sister walked around me to go to the living room. Charles was following Lori, yelling. Tylee told him to get back. She took her bat and shoved him and he took the bat away. I said, what are you doing? Later on, Alex says Charles backed up. I cleared the doorway. So then Lori came around and Charles was behind her, pursuing her aggressively. Tylee came out and yelled at him with the bat. So Tylee says she followed them into the main room. But Alex says Tylee was initially behind Charles and then went around him to go to the main room. About Alex getting hit in the head. Lori says Alex grabbed Charles from behind to stop him. Charles and Alex started grappling, and Charles is hitting Alex with the bat, and they're on the ground. Lori kind of swings her hand downward in just a chopping motion and said Charles was hitting Alex with the back and swinging it back and forth as they're grappling on the ground. Alex didn't mention grappling when he got hit. He said Charles was following Lori, yelling. Tylee told him to get back. She shoved Charles with the bat, and he took it away. I said, "What are you doing?" and got in between them. Then he hit me. I just went down. As far as how Charles was holding the bat, this is right before he shot and killed. The investigator asked how Charles was holding the bat. Lori says backwards. She puts her arm up like the grip of the bat would be on Charles's shoulder, and then she swings it outward, not at all like a baseball player. Alex said it was in his right hand like this, and then he gestures to that bat being held down low. Afterwards, did you see your sister or Tylee again? No. When Alex is asked where Tylee and Lori were, Alex is shaking his head and says, "No, I didn't see them." Lori says, "I was kind of turned around and we all were inside that room except for the kids." And she said she heard the gunshot. She's asked if she heard the shot, and Lori says, "Mm-hmm." The investigator asked if she saw the shot or heard it. Lori is quiet for a couple of seconds. She said she was in the kitchen and went around to get away from Charles and heard the shot. Lori said when she came back into the room where Alex and Charles were, he was standing in front of Charles, and it all happened quickly. She said she felt like she was there because she was there a second later. She said Alex said nothing to her because they were in shock. She didn't say anything. She went to check on the kids and was going back in, but maybe I didn't. Again, the investigator asks, "Did you see Tylee or your sister again?" No. As far as Tylee, the investigator says, "So when your mom told you to go, did you see what happened with your stepdad and your uncle?" No. The investigator says, "Once you went outside, you never went back inside?" Tylee pauses and looks up and says, "I went inside to get my mom's purse so we could have her wallet, but this was all happening in the bigger room, and I went through the garage door, and there is a little hallway, and this is the room where everything is happening, and this is my mom's room, and when I went in, I just kind of tuned everything out, ran to my mom's closet, and ran out, so I didn't see or hear anything." The report says, Lori says she was kind of turned around and her and the kids were outside, and she heard the gunshot. So very different statements from everybody there. As far as the 911 call, obviously big discrepancy there. Lori said Alex called her and asked if she was taking JJ to school. Lori told him yes and told Alex they needed to call the police, and Alex says okay. But the investigator asked Alex, "When did you realize Lori had gone, and did you call her?" No, he denies calling her, although there are a couple of calls, and a simple search warrant of their phones would have shown those discrepancies of the time and the calls Alex made to Lori before he called 911. So that is pretty much it. That's where I'm going to stop with all this, and I think we are ready for trial. I think there's going to be more come out that we don't know yet. We know up in Idaho for both Lori and Chad, we learned a lot of little things. These tiny puzzle pieces add so much, and I don't think this trial is going to be any different. So join me starting Monday. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and click that little bell so you know when I go live from the courthouse. Also, lunchtime, Law and Crime Network. I'll be doing some live Q&As. Also, every night, as usual, I'll recap the day's testimony in an hour or less. And I love being able to add in, how is the jury reacting to this? What's it like in the courtroom? We have a very, very busy few weeks ahead, but this is what I love. All right, guys, that's it. We will see you on Monday from Phoenix. Have a good one.